Hello guys, this is Jelly. On today's video, you're gonna learn how to create a website in Adobe XD. If this is your first time visiting my channel, I normally talk about tech stuff and things I found interesting. So in this video, we're gonna talk about styling, breakpoints, typography, color palettes, and if you want to skip to a specific part of this video, everything will be linked down below. And this is a video mainly for beginners, so at the end of this video you should be able to create your own website. And before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. I want to start this tutorial with a small introduction of a breakpoint. We want to answer and understand this question before moving on. So what exactly is a breakpoint? It is the point at which a website content and design will adapt a certain way in order to provide the best possible user experience. As we will see in my example for this tutorial, my website navigation will be completely shown in regular desktop screen. But when the website is viewed on a phone screen, we will instead be having this icon. For this tutorial, we will be having 4 different breakpoints: desktop, iPad in landscape mode, iPad in portrait mode, and phone display. So don't worry if right now it's too much information. We will be learning about this later on in the video. We will now be moving to the color palette. When I'm starting a website, I like to first choose my color palette. There are a lot of websites and design rules you can follow, but for this project, I will be using Adobe Color. So there's this tab where you can explore different types of color schemes. I like to go to trends and look at what is trending right now. So for this project, I decided to go with flavor palette, just because I wanted to go with more warm colors, but you can go with whatever color you want. So be creative. So an important question we need to ask ourselves when designing a website is, who is going to use this website? I wanted to make a website where users can read information for a small organization. After having these concepts cleared out, like for example, what type of content should be in the navigation bar, headings, content, then we can start designing. So it's really important to clear out what kind of information we need on a website. For the purpose of this video, the website won't be having a lot of information. And that is why I will be keeping my content short, as you will be seeing later on. So for this design, I decided to get inspired and check other websites. To do this, I normally use the website Dribble. If you haven't checked this website, then you should. It has all kinds of designs. All artists that I used to create this website will be linked down in the description. So hello guys. Today we're going to start by opening a new project. And I'm going to be first naming this project as website. After that, we want to choose a correct artboard. We want to build a responsive web design. So I will be starting with the web breakpoint 1920 times 1080. Okay, so now we want the artboard for an iPad, and I am choosing the one from 768 times 1024, as you can see. Perfect. Now I want to do the landscape mode. Now at this time we already have our web and iPad artboards, but we also want to have an iPad landscape mode artboard and a mobile. So for that, I am going to clone my artboard with Ctrl D or Command D, and we're going to go to transform section, and as we can see, there is an icon with this landscape mode, and we're going to click there. Now for the phone artboard, I'm just going with the Samsung Galaxy S10. As we can see, I just choose it from the options given. Now, these are personally the screen sizes that I choose for my project. If you want to use another screen size, feel free to do that. Choose the one that's more suitable for you and your project. Just make sure you do your research before. I decided to use the most common screen resolution sizes. So now let's talk about the colors. After I already selected the colors, I just want to create a few rectangles with the colors I want to use. We will be using throughout the whole project these colors. So that's why we need to add these colors to our color palette. Let's click on this icon to add the colors. And I will select every rectangle and just click on the plus icon. This way it will be easier to select our colors throughout the whole project. So let's start now with our home section. I'm going to select the rectangle tool and start by creating a rectangle. This should have 80 pixels of height. And we will start with our navigation. At first, I will start with home text. Then I'm just gonna center it. We will now be using the font family Arimo with font size 30 and in regular. I personally like this font and downloaded it in my Adobe Creative Cloud. If this isn't available for you, then select another one you liked. So you don't need to use the same fonts as I am doing in this project. After this, we will center it and click on Repeat Grid. Now we will just expand. And as you can see, we can change the distance between the elements here. I'm just adding a 64 for distance. And we will now be cloning or duplicating this element on the other side. And I will be expanding it again. Now, as you will see, I will group this element. I think it is important to work on a clean way. And I have seen a lot of tutorials where people don't really explain this, but it is important to work on layers. That's why you will see me doing a lot of groups and working with the layers very often throughout the whole tutorial. And believe me, this will make our work more quicker and easier. Now we will be adding a padding left of 128. And now we will be just centering it. And we will do the same for the other side. Remember to have this padding section, you need to do a group. We will center it too. So now we have our two groups, as you can see. I will now be adding a logo that I did on a logo generator page. So for this tutorial, many of the images or icons I already imported them. To do this, you just go to File and then Import. Now, because I want to center the logo, I'm just going to select everything and then group it. We will call this navigation. So to center everything and check that everything's aligned, I just zoomed in and move the logo up. So after centering our logo, we want to make sure we have the right navigation links. So now I'm just changing the text. At this point, we want to clean everything. And I'm just changing the navigation group names to navigation links. So far we have this. Now for navigation, I wanted to have a color that was between beige and orange. So I came out with this color. And we will be having this color throughout the whole project, so that's why I wanted to have it in my color palette. To do that, I just created a rectangle, go to Fill, click on the color, and click on plus. And as you can see, we have it there. This is the value of the color I'm using in case you want to use the same color. Now, I want to use the color we just added. So to do that, I'm just gonna select the color and I will take away the border. So far, so good. Now, after this, we want to select the rectangle tool and start by creating two big rectangles. This should have a width of 960. I'm just gonna clone this rectangle. And after this, we will be taking away the border and selecting our colors. Okay, so we want to start now by adding up the text. I'm gonna select the text tool and I will just be adding some random text. This will be with a font size of 60 pixels, Montserrat and semi-bold. Now I just want to select this layer and group it so I can be able to use a padding. As you may remember, I already said that we will be using a padding of 128 pixels. So I'm just going ahead and adding a padding of 128 pixels left and a padding top of 208. So I just want to say that I will be using framework CSS called Tailwind. So many of the padding sizes that I will be using in this website project will be from the Tailwind CSS framework. Now after this, I'm just aligning my text. And I will be copying a lot of text from internet. So I will be just pasting it here. And now I just want to align everything. As you can see, I have added my both texts on a group. This text will be a Montserrat 20 medium. Now I will create a group for my title, and this will just have a padding bottom of 24. As you can see, and I'm just aligning it. Now I'm just gonna group it and call it title. I am adding a line for the design, and this will have a size of 7, and the color will be black. And I will be adding the color to the color palette because we will be using black throughout the project. Now, after we have our line on our text, we want to select both of our line on our text and group it. I will call this text. So we have a text and a title, as you can see. So inside this group, we will be adding a button. And this will have a width of 231 and a height of 57. Now let's take away the border. I wanted to have a color like between orange and red, so I just went on and played with the colors.
and found this one. So I will be adding this color to my color palette as I will be using it. And if you want to use it, then just use the same value. I'm now organizing the colors. Now at this point, I want to add some text to my button. So I'm just gonna use the styles of Montserrat 21 in semi-bold. We also want to group it and call this group button. And I want the text to have the color white. And I will be adding this to my color palette as I still don't have white. Now I will be adding a border size 8. I will be adding a padding button to my text, and this will be 14. And I'm just aligning everything now. Now for our title, I wanted to go more with the underline style just because we will be using lines in many of our section. So I'm just gonna underline these styles. So personally, I added more padding here. I had 14 before and now I'm just adding 28 because I just thought that the distances were so small. I am first selecting the rectangle and I will duplicate it. Now I will be choosing the circle tool. Now I'm just playing around. You can put them on a position that you want. After that, I'm just gonna fill the circles. And take the border off. Now, what I'm gonna do, I will select my rectangle and the 3 circles. And I'm gonna group them. I'll just call this group shapes. Now, I wanna open the group and let's make sure that the rectangle is at the top of everything. And after that, we want to select everything. And with the mouse, let's do a left click. We will mask our shape. And I'm just putting this on top. And as you can see, I'm gonna select the rectangle, our shapes, and I'm just gonna group it. I'm gonna call this group image. So as we see, we have our shapes on our rectangle. Now I'm just cleaning everything up and I will call this text. I will select the rectangle and put it on text and just put it below everything. Now I will be importing an image from a website called OnDraw. This is our image and I'm just going to center it to where I want to put it. And we're done with the home section. So it should look like this. So now we want to start with our events section. For this, I want to duplicate our height. Now after that, as you can see, here we have our layers from home section. So we want to group our image, and now we want to group the 3 of the layers and group it, and this will be called home. I will start now with the rectangle tool, and I will be selecting it to do a rectangle. Now I will be choosing the color for our event section. So as you can see, this color is very intense. That's why I wanted to go with a lighter color. I just experiment, and at the end I had this color. So you can use it if you want to use this color. And now I'm just adding it to my colors. And now I am deleting the colors because we already have our colors here in our color palette. We want to select the text tool. And now we will start by writing our title. Now as you can see, I am using Montserrat 60 in semi-bold. And our font will be black. Now after this, I will be selecting our title and I will be grouping it. Our group will be named text. Now we want to add the padding, and this will be 128, like we have been using on our home section. After this, I am just using the lorem text that we already had from our home section, so I'm just copying and pasting it here. And as you can see, I'm gonna group it, and the group will be called header. After this, we want to select our title, group it, and I will call it header. So now I'm just gonna add the padding, and this will be a padding button 28. After this, I am just putting our layers together, and the text will go outside. Now I wanna add a padding button 96 because we will be having a button. So for the button, I am just using the circle tool. Now our button will be 105 of width and height. I'm gonna take away the border, and for the color, I'm gonna take this one. After this, I am using my font awesome icons, and I'm just gonna center my icon of an arrow. And I will be grouping my icon and my circle, and I will call this button. Now I'm just fixing the layers and putting everything inside my text. So far it will be looking like this. After this, I am selecting the text tool. So for my card, I'm going to start with the number 23. This will be the day of my event. I'm just putting it outside my text section. I will select my group text and the rectangle, and then I'm going to center it. Now after adding our 23, I will be adding the month. So in this case, April. And I'm just changing the font size to 24. It will be a medium Montserrat. 23 will be medium. 128. And after that, I'm just aligning the 23 with the month. Now I will be adding my other text. So where is this event taking place? And the exact time. My font size will be 24. Now don't worry about aligning it completely right because we will be adding padding. Now after this, let's select our 23 and April. So both of the text, and we will group them. And we will add a padding of 28. We will call this group date. Now I'm just fixing the layers and putting home at the top because our home section is the first one. After this, we want to start with the card. So I am just choosing the rectangle tool, and I will be adding a border radius of 8 and taking away the border. Now, for our width, we will have 374, and our height will be 406. Now I'm going to add an image, and I found this image in the internet for free. You can use whichever image you want to use. After this, I am just selecting the rectangle and the image, and I'm gonna group both of them. This group will be called image. Now, I want to select the rectangle and put it at the top of our image group. And now we want to select both of them and mask them. Now I'm just aligning it. After this, I am selecting everything and I am going to group it. And this will be called card. And I will be adding a padding button of 48. So I'm just going to add text to our card. And I'm just going to add some information about my event. I also added another text. And you can put whatever information you want to add. And I'm just going to call this description and this group detail. I will add my description and my detail groups in my card group. Now, I want to add some padding in the description group, and it will be a padding button of 16. The font size will be 30. And for my detail group, this will have the font size of 22, and it will be semi-bold. I will add this color to my text because this will be an important information. And I will be adding a line. Just because I'm going already with this style of using lines, I will have a size of 8 and this will be color black. And I want to make sure that the width of my line is 372. Now I'm just gonna put the line inside of my card group. Now I will be adding a padding left of 80 and I'm just gonna align everything. After this, I am copying my card 3 times. Now I will add a padding of 80. And now I will just be aligning everything and centering it. And I will be changing the distance between the cards. After this, I will be selecting our elements and grouping them. This group will be called events. And I will be just changing the pictures to have a more realistic view of our event section. We will now be working on the About Us section. To start, I will be selecting the rectangle tool to create sort of a menu. My width will be 990. We will group it and call it About Us. And we can see our layers of home and events. Using our text tool, we will create 2 texts, a number and a text. Our number will have a font size of 96 and services will have a font size of 36. We will be selecting both of them and group them. This group will be inside of our About Us group. After this, we will be grouping both of our texts to add padding. So I will be selecting our services group and add a padding of 128. And as you can see, we will be using this padding number in our website. So I'm just following a structure. We will then be adding a padding to our group number of 204. And for our text, a padding of 246. Then let's add this arrow so the user can click on the element. For that, I will be using Font Awesome Icons and adding it to my group. I will now be selecting the rectangle and changing the height to 270. And I will be centering the content. After this, we want to create a line of 882. We want to then take away the border of the rectangle and choose a color. After that, I'm gonna group my services and rectangle group and create a new group called services. Now I'm just gonna take the line and put it inside my services group. Now I will be copying this group 3 times. After this, I will just be changing the text. We will now choose our rectangle tool and put this rectangle inside my About Us group. After this, we want to add some color, and I am selecting an orange color because I wanted to go with more warm colors. I will then add a copyright picture that I found on the internet for free. And lower the opacity to 50%. Now I will go to my layers view and I will select my rectangle and my image and group them. After that, I will go to my mask group, copy and paste the rectangle. So we have an orange rectangle again. And I want to make sure that this rectangle is at the bottom of all layers. After that, I will group it on colored mission text. Now I will select our menu points, group them and call them information. After this, let's select our text tool and we will add our title. Let's rename our mission text group to mission image. I will also be adding a lorem text, and then we want to add a line under the title with the size of 8, and it will have a color black. The width should be 360. Then I will group all of our elements and add a padding. Our line will have a padding bottom of 28. Our mission text group will be having a padding top of 160 and a padding bottom of 166. We will be changing our header font size to 60. Our header will have a padding bottom of 16. After that, I will be selecting the text and grouping them. And I will call this group text. And we will have a padding button of 96. We will be using the same types of buttons on the page. So for that, I will go to my event section, select my button, and turn it into a component. And with this, I will be able to use this button everywhere without creating it every time. So back to my About Us section, I will be adding component button. And we wanted to change the color to brown. So our About Us section is done. We will start now with our location section. So for that, I will start by choosing the rectangle tool and creating a rectangle with a width of 990. We want to put this rectangle in a group. And this group will be called location. I want to go with some dark color here. So after this, I will select my text tool and write our text. I don't know if you're noticing a pattern, but we're using the same font size in every section of our header. So we'll be using 60 pixels for our font size. Now, as you can see, I'm creating another component for a line, since I will be using it more often in this project. I will be selecting the color orange here. We will also be adding some detailed text. In the size of 30 in font weight semi-bold. Now I will also be adding an address here, and I got this address from a random address generator. We'll be using the same font size 30, but in white. At this point, we want to start adding some padding. For this, we want to create a group. I'm going to be calling this group location. Inside this group, I will add a padding of 16. And we want to do the same with the line. So I will also create a group here and add a padding button of 28. For the detail, I'll also create a group and added a padding of 14. And I will be changing the name to title instead of location. So we want to group all of our groups and call it location. And we will add a padding bottom of 96. Now, as you can see, our mission and location section are pretty alike. I will be adding a button on my location section so the user will be able to go to this site. Now I want to add a text to the left, and this will have a font size of 36 in white. After that, we will create a group with our text and our button, and I will call it button info. We will then select both of the groups and call it location. We want to add a padding in the location group, a padding right of 128 and a padding top of 176. And we will now continue. So first of all, I'm creating a rectangle. We want to take away the border. And I'm going to add an image. And now I will select my rectangle and my image, group them and mask them. So it's really important that the rectangle is on top of the image. After that, I'm just renaming my group to Google Maps image. Now we will start with our footer. For this, we want to start by increasing our artboard. So the height will be now 4,907. We will then create a rectangle with a height of 587. And for that, I will use this brown color that we have already used. Now we will add a text in 36 with a font weight of medium. And we will also be adding our links. After this, I want to create a new group. After this, we want to select everything and create a group. This group will be called footer. And in my group, I will be adding a padding right of 200. After this, I will group our title and name it. We will then rename this group to About. We will name this group title, and our group links will be called links. Then I will select both and group them into a group which will be called About. After that, we want to click on Repeat Grid, and I will be extending it. And we'll be adding a padding of 200. And in this part, I will be changing my content. After this, I just added a line below our About group. After this, we will ungroup our grid. And I will be renaming this group to Footer Info. I will be adding a padding of 80. Now we want to add some circles, and inside the circles we will have some social media icons. For this, we will be creating a circle. Then I will take away the border, and it should have a width and height of 64. I will then click on Repeat Grid and expand it to have 4 circles. And I'm just aligning it. This will have a padding of 14. As you can see, I have added an icon. Then I will ungroup our grid, and we have every single element of the grid. So for now, I will be just renaming our groups. And as you can see, I am just changing the icons. So I will be deleting the Facebook icon, and I will just be adding another icon. I will be doing this for the next following icons. I will be grouping all of our social medias. And this group will be called social media. After that, I will group our text online and call it footer. So we're finally done with all of our sections. And now these are the other responsive breakpoints we want to work in. I will do this off camera because the video will just be too long if I would do it in camera, but I will be kind of explaining how did I did it. So after doing this design for all breakpoints, it should look like this. As you can see, many of the information isn't shown in tablet or mobile devices because it doesn't fit in with the sizes. Also, the font sizes and position have changed so that the user have the best experience while reading or clicking on the website.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it as much as I did, then don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. My next video also will be going into another direction, but you will see it soon, so stay tuned.